Greetings, my fellow freedom-loving sovereign thinkers. Thank you for tuning to LL3 Podcast. My name is Craig, transmitting from the beautiful land of enchantment, which is New Mexico. And today's date is Saturday, March 14th, 2020. So I'm just out and about here in New Mexico, just visiting family and all that good stuff. Doing a couple things, prepping up, etc. Yeah, I'd like to, a lot of fear mongering going on with the COVID-19. And when I share information like this to a lot of folks, even when including, stuff I put on Facebook and Twitter, I may use my other alternative sites soon. It's been a little bit lackadaisical in those areas. I apologize. And even repost it on SoundCloud. It's just to get people to think and be aware of what's happening, and always try to remain vigilant on your health. Because right now, a lot of schools around the country, around this nation, are shutting down for a few weeks. They had state of emergencies, and on a state and county level or municipality level. In addition, Trump did announce a national emergency, and he's using the Stratford Act of 1988. So just to folks, if you want more information, just look it up. It is a lot of pages. So there's summarized versions, but always observe responsibly. We're always going to find out if it's actually, like I always said to my friends out there, I'm convinced in good faith it is a bioweapon. And Kio Bono, who benefits? Now, if you went to the supermarket today, fortunately, where I'm at, it's not too bad. But I know I got other reports from people around the area, including my place in Fort Lauderdale, South Florida area. People are running amok. They're fighting amongst products. My good grief. When are you folks going to chill? That's why I believe it's like state importation. You're going to ride around, think the world's going to revolve around you, and you're from another place. This is how you do it up there. Ship them back. Yeah, there's a lot of problems with that. People take things for granted, hoarding stuff, and it's always good to prep. I'm not condemning that at all. I'm one of those individuals that have that mindset as well, but I don't go around taking things for granted. And many of you out there should always be ready, okay, when anything's possible. So, so I'm like at home right now. Actually, my parents' home. Good folks. Shout out to them for putting up with me for all these years. Now they're good people. We get along great. So I'm going to do a couple things pertaining to this matter. And a couple other extra goodies here. And this one here came out from the Organic Prepper, Daisy Luther. Always enjoy her work. This one says here, the shite is actually hitting the fan, but somehow it doesn't feel real. That's what she has to say. Interesting stuff here. So here we are, right in the cusp of the SHTF event that we've been prepping for all these years. A global pandemic, a breakdown of supply chain. Shoppers are already becoming agitated and even violent. We're watching it all unfold in our hometowns and across our nation right now. Yeah, somehow it doesn't feel real to me. It is just me who finds this hard to fathom. Am I the only one who still thinks doubtful thoughts? Like, no way it's going to be okay? You're overreacting. It's a little scarce, just like the Ebola, MERS, and SARS. Good point. I've researched and written. Hold on here. Alright, thank you. It says here, I've researched and written about this for years. One moment, it's gotta, looks like, okay, cool. So, I know what to do here. Thank you. So it says here, I've researched and written about this for years. The Phantom, okay. I've written other stuff. Okay, sorry about that. I've researched and written about this stuff for years. I always knew it could happen. Is wholeheartedly convinced of these possibilities, and yet, when the situation began to move irrevocably toward disaster, I find myself somehow shocked. I can't be the only one who was prepared for this yet still feels stuck in normalcy bias, thinking this isn't going to get as bad as you think, even as I watch the events unfold around us pretty much like we in the survival community I always predicted. This is still doubtful voice in my head, make me wonder about spending even more money on another last shopping trip. Heck, maybe this make me a bad prepper, a fake survivalist, a fraud. Or maybe it's only natural to think that life will keep moving on it pretty much like it always has. Will COVID-19 really be the thing that bring us down? Will the nation devolve into chaos? I like to say no with firm conviction. After all, there have been close calls before, but the rational part of me won't allow that firm conviction, despite the part that says, don't be silly, everything will just be fine after a brief blip. I believe it's okay to feel this way as long as you don't allow it to get in the way of your preparations or your acceptance of the disaster when it actually unfolds in all shocking reality. Maybe I'm oversharing here and a whole bunch of folks will unsubscribe. I don't know. But if others are feeling the same way, I want you to know that you aren't alone. Instincts versus normalcy bias. I think people have come down on one of two sides since the COVID-19 virus first came onto the radar back in late December or early January. Some people have thought this is the next plague, while others have thought, so what, the flu is more deadly. Now that we're down to the wire, we'll find out which line of thinking was most accurate. And a lot of this goes down to a decision. Are you going to believe your gut, or are you going to believe that logical normalcy bias that tells you this isn't how things go in the United States of America? My gut's telling me since mid-January that this thing is a major event. After all, would China have tanked its economy and locked down a city of 20 million people, welding their doors closed? In many cases, if this novel coronavirus was no big deal, would Italy have locked down their entire country and begun turning away patients over the age of 65 to funnel resources to those more likely to survive? If this was just another common everyday flu. There's links for that too in those areas on the site, on this post if you want to check it out. But the logical side of me says, this is the U.S. We will be just fine, because we've always been just fine in my lifetime. We're bruised and shaken, but bounced back with fierce resolve on 9/11. We are very fine when Ebola reached our shores back in 2014. We recovered after Hurricane Katrina and Superstorm Sandy, and on the other hand, named storms that have hit. We're Americans. We're resilient. It's who we are. However, our resilience may not be enough to conquer a crisis that was badly mishandled from the get-go. It may not be enough to overcome a less than 1 million hospital beds in the country with more than 327 million people. The enemy is a virus we know hardly anything about, and we can't even believe the numbers out there from China or our own government. People are getting tense. This afternoon, when I heard there was a press conference at the Rose Garden at 3 p.m., I have a bad feeling. I wonder if my calculations were off when I figured that we could begin to see major quarantines in about a week. I headed to the store with my 19-year-old daughter to get ahead of the crowds. That would certainly be intimate if such an announcement was made. We picked up extra cat litter, extra pet food, some hardware, and extra frozen vegetables. When I went to the grocery store, I saw that frozen veggies were on sale for $10. I grabbed 10 bags of frozen spinach and saw a round-up, angry-looking woman glaring at me And I gave her a what? She looked and said, "Are you going to leave any for other people?" I said politely, "I'm sorry. Did you want some spinach?" I picked up 3 bags off my cart and offered them to her. She said, "No, I don't want any spinach, asshole." Pretty flamboyant with some of these people. I replied calmly, "Okay, well, have a nice day." I left with my spinach. I wasn't about to get into an altercation at Kroger over a $1 bag of spinach the other woman didn't even want. It looks like this escalation course I took paid off because my first instinct was not to be pleasant and disregard her insults. I saw the tensions on people's faces as they pushed their carts quickly up and down the aisle, the tunnel vision obvious if someone stopped in an aisle, a common thing to do at the grocery store. The folks behind them were give a loud sigh of annoyance. Even I saw a couple of people bumping into others with their carts. Whether it was carelessness or deliberately done, I couldn't tell. I left the store with my purchase, happy I could get out of there and content with what I had. I know that I am as well stocked as I get with the money I have. If it's not enough, we'll move through plans B, C, and the rest of the alphabet. The official response. I can't be the only person who finds the official response to be much too little, far too late. To be perfectly clear, I don't really blame the president or the vice president, which I have to agree. And you got a lot of folks going at witch hunting fetish, politicizing this ordeal. So you always got to pay attention, my friends. They're in a rather impossible situation in which no matter what they do, the outcome is bad. Even if they shut everything down completely, there will be panic, the likes of which we've never seen. And economic fallout will be exponentially worse than it already is. This also impairs the ability to be totally forthcoming, while people in the preparedness community would prefer brutal facts, offer soothing fiction. Most people really don't want to know how bad things are or how bad they become. Of course, you gotta always see these things. One moment. Cool. So I always gotta, look at things in the bigger picture, of course. And as I continue on, those impair their availability to be totally forthcoming, while people in the preparedness community who prefer brutal facts or soothing fiction, most people really don't want to know how bad things are or how bad they'll become. So the government will continue to dance around the subject until they can't dance no more, and we reach a point where the truth is obvious, even the most obvious clinger to normalcy. On the other hand, the press conference at the White House left me feeling even more uneasy than I had felt before. Parading a bunch of CEOs before showing us this ridiculous flow chart. It looks something like a 4th grader, might in hand for a school project, certainly did nothing to make me feel like things were under control. I don't care at all what the head of the CVS pharmacies thinks about the outbreak and his ability to keep stores running. Of course, I could care less. Good grief. In fact, the main thing I gathered from this is that CVS, Walmart, and Target will be distribution points that remain open during the crisis. Mom and pop stores may not have access to warehouses or supplies. This is the way it will be easier for the government to ration things out and enforce like 1 bag of rice per household, should it come to that. I actually posted an article about this topic a few months back, so you can check it out, folks, alright? I thought that President Trump looked and sounded unwell during the press conference. Whether that is effective stress or he's become ill is impossible to say. Regardless if you like him or not. Hopefully it won't be that case that he's ill, alright? So we'll just continue on. All in all, I was not reassured by anything in that press conference. What is exceptional growth? Rationally, I'm aware of the increase in confirmed cases and exponential spread of the virus. We've probably passed to the point of no return. The New York Times explained the exponential growth with this chart, that these are the number of the cases on certain dates. And it's like it says here, January 21st is 1, January 28th there's 5, February 4th is 11, February 11th is 14, February 18th was 25, February 25th is 59, March 3rd is 125, and March 10th is 1,004. And on the morning on March 14th, they were up to 2,175 cases as the drive-through testing facilities open up with free tests, and we can expect that number to grow quite a lot. And I know Mike Adams from Natural News did the same thing, so we'll just continue on here. The magnitude of the outbreak creeps up on you. It doesn't look like things are growing very much, and then suddenly they are. Today, the U.S. is at least 1,714 known cases, and we're a couple of days from when it was 1,004. It's going to be 4,000 by Monday, then it's going to be 8,000 by next Wednesday, then it's exponential growth, staggering when it takes over. Exponential growth is a classic pattern which numbers stay small initially but will end up in very large numbers very quickly. If you start a certain number, then multiply that number by a growth factor every day. Depending on what growth rate is, you'll see cumulative number doubling over a certain period of time. What really matters is how high the growth rate is. In the U.S. right now, according to our world in data, confirmed COVID-19 cases increases by 30 to 40% per day, and the total number is doubling about every 2 days. It is exactly the situation in China, Italy, Iran, and all other countries with massive outbreaks have found themselves in, and the United States is probably next. Is the SHTF really happening? We are still at a stage in the shell game. Nobody knows which the shell the SHTF is hiding under. Nobody knows if we can reel things and gain control of the situation. Nobody knows if we're going to go away of Italy when an entire nation is locked down and singing from their balconies to raise morale in desperate situation. I wonder if people who live through horrible situations ever imagine in their wildest dreams how bad things would get. I know in Selko's book, SHTF Survival Stories, he wrote about this. Nobody ever truly expected things to happen the way they did. There was a period of adjustment and all the rules changed, but a lot of folks didn't accept the changes soon enough that they did not survive. When I silence the part of my mind that says, this can't be happening, I'm only left with realistic parts that says, yes, it is. While we don't know 100%, we don't know 100% how this pandemic will play out in our country. We have to be ready for things to go badly. In her book, The COVID-19 Survival Manual, Kat Ellis talked about the inability of our hospitals to handle thousands of patients. We have less than 1 million beds in the country of 327 million people, and most of those beds are not in place equipped to handle highly contagious sick people. And what about the people with other health issues? Our medical system won't be able to handle exponential growth no matter how hard they try or how much they want to help. When I look at how grocery stores and discount stores across this country look like a horde of locusts, when through the inventory, I know this is a bad sign. When a friend who manages a large grocery store says to me, our truck was only half full today. If buying inventory continue like this, we will be out of food by Monday. I can only imagine the havoc the stores out of food will wreak. It's going to be like Black Friday times 1,000, something I've written about for years. The entire thing is surreal, isn't it? I've written about and prepared for the SHTF for years, And I'm having trouble wrapping my head around the fact that we're in the early stages of it. What must it like feel for someone who is brand new to the concept? It's the only thing to watch it happen someplace far away from the screens of our laptop or televisions, but entirely another watch to unfold at home. However, we have to accept it and have it act quickly and decisively. One of the most important things I've learned from Selco is about accepting the new rules. One of the most important things he taught me is to adapt quickly, immediately to the new rules that apply when SHTF or crap hits the fan. And to do that, you need to know what it's like so you won't be shocked, frozen, paralyzed by the things taking place right in front of you. When there are a new set of rules, the old rules no longer apply. The rules about waiting patiently for the government to save you, the rules about how people won't walk up and steal from you in broad daylight because they'll be arrested, the rules that you will get paid for your work and then you go to the store and buy what you need, those rules will be gone. And when you start seeing the new rules appear, you will know the shite has hit the accelerating device, and the world as you knew, it has changed. I know this, and yet I still think hope is one part of my mind, and that won't happen by the way here. That's the most dangerous misconception of survival. The only part of my mind to know that it could, and that the part which propels me through getting prepared despite of what doubtful side whispers, is not just you. So if you find yourself not quite believing what you're seeing, not quite believing that all hell could break loose in America at any point, you are not alone. If you look at everything heading to hell on a greasy slide and think it doesn't feel real, it's not just you. I'm feeling the same that way myself. I'm sharing this because I bet a lot of people are feeling the same way, second guessing themselves, doubting themselves, feeling like they aren't good preppers. You aren't alone. I'll bet a whole lot of folks who won't admit it feel this way too. You don't believe it because you don't want to believe it. We never actually want it to be right when we stockpiled and learned skills and bought more supplies that we actually had room to house. But the thing that puts us ahead in the situation is that we're prepared anyway. We learned anyway. And when we see the more obvious signs of societal breakdown, we'll be able to accept it a lot faster than those who never even considered it. And it's a real solid point there, folks, what she wrote. And then, to all you folks that are prepped up the best you can, pat yourselves in the back, not out of arrogance, but in good faith. This is the reasons why we have these obligations. Hope for the best, prepare for the worst. And I don't know how long it's going to be. But one thing you gotta look out for too, all the mind control fanatics, mind control propaganda trying to shove down our throats. So you watch these lamestream media, garbage media, just throwing it in our faces, drilling it in our heads. I don't even watch the damn idiot box. I'll just hit a couple of sites I admire dearly and examine everything thoroughly, and make my own decisions. Vigilance is always the key when it comes to tyranny and all that, or protecting liberty. Those are areas we need to focus on. And you got folks out there, they want to say, you don't understand the situation I'm in. To me, respectfully, that's nothing more than a confounded cop-out. Because they're not the only ones that have problems. If you're going to have that mindset, go back to your cave. Don't contaminate your space around your neighbors. So we'll just stay tuned, do what we can, and make things better within our neighbors. I guess I'll say this: start chat with your neighbors too on these areas. And if you have a militia, so be it. So it was right here. This came out from the mindunleash.com. Came out today. It says here, Mexico considers closing border to stop coronavirus infected Americans from entering. By John Vibes. And as it reads here, an interesting turn of events. Mexican health officials are considering the possibility of closing off the country's northern border with the United States amid the growing coronavirus outbreak. In debates surrounding travel across the U.S.-Mexico border, the roles are usually reversed, with U.S. officials threatening to shut down the border over immigration and security concerns, despite the fact that more people are actually moving from the United States to Mexico than the other way around. Mexican Health Minister Hugo Lopez-Gatell voices concern about the risk of the outbreak spreading from the United States at a press conference on Friday. Mexico wouldn't bring the virus to the United States, rather the United States would bring it here. A possible flow of coronaviruses will come from the north to the south. If it were technically correct, we will consider mechanisms of restrictions or stronger surveillance, Lopez-Gatell said. Official number of the cases in the United States is just over 2,300, but some experts and health officials believe that there are already hundreds of thousands of cases. Dr. Marty Mockery, a medical professor at Johns Hopkins University, estimates that there could be up to 500,000 cases in the United States. Don't believe the numbers when you see, even on our Johns Hopkins website, that 1,600 Americans have the virus. No, that means 1,600 got tested positive. There are probably about 25 to 50 people who have the virus of every one person who is confirmed. I think we may have 50,000 or 500,000 cases right now walking around the United States, he added. Meanwhile, Ohio Department of Health Director Amy Acton estimated that there were at least 100,000 undiagnosed cases in the state of Ohio. We know that the community spread says is at least 1%, and at the very least 1% of our population is carrying the virus in Ohio today. We have 11.7 million people, so the math is over 100,000. So that just gives a sense of how this virus spreads, and it spreading quickly, Acton said. There are still considered under 20 confirmed cases in Mexico and known deaths from the illness, although, as with the United States and everywhere else, the number is likely to be higher due to inadequate testing. So, that's interesting synopsis there. And you can't really blame the Mexican government, too. So, if they shut the borders down to the states of Mexico, that's fine. And the United States should shut their borders as well. Make it a joint venture. Try to lock it in if they have to. I'm not really crazy about it. I always believe everyone has that liberty. But the whole thing is, if they're going to do that, it has a good chance of being suppressed. But anything's different. Anything can be different too. So, like I said, my friends, always remain vigilant on your health. Don't just wait for the vaccine to occur. There's plenty of other herbs and natural remedies that can fight viruses, fevers, etc. So I'm going to look at here. Came from the American Conservative, and it says here, did Maryland police shoot and kill a sleeping man? And this was written by Jim Bovard. And as it reads here, the Constitution is dead was the last tweet ever sent by 21-year-old Duncan Sacrates Lemp. On Thursday morning at 4:30 a.m., a Montgomery County SWAT team killed Lemp during a violent attack on his family's home from the affluent Washington suburb of Potomac, Maryland. Why did the SWAT team attack the home as Lemp was sleeping? The initial county police press release referred only to firearm offenses. The county police spokesman, Mary Davison, refused to disclose either details of Lemp's alleged offense or the affidavit used to justify the raid. Instead, she notified me that my press inquiries were not being handled under the Maryland Public Information Act, which entitles government agencies to delay responding for weeks or months. Even the search warrant used was justified. The raid is reportedly sealed for 30 days. Interesting there, because it happened to Lava Wheeler with the sealed warrant. They did a raid on him on July 1st, 2002. And his wife, who was 72 years old, she's like 12 years older than him, and a great grandmother. And they raided the whole place. They took their fire. He made homemade firearms, claimed it was a race war. All right. And what's funny about that? She was handcuffed her, and they're involved in the National Alliance, which I'm not, too keen with to be just to let you folks know. And when they arrested him, okay, at his job, they just charged him for 2 counts of improper containment of gunpowder, and his bail was $2 million. Yeah, that's the Commonwealth of Maryland for you folks. Totally pathetic. That's all I gotta say. Very tyrannical indeed. All right, but I will continue on here. This blue wall of silence is doing nothing to slow the cascade of allegations on social media that Lemp was murdered. According to Renee Sandler, a former prosecutor who was representing the Lemp family, Montgomery County Police fired into the bedroom where Lemp and his pregnant girlfriend were sleeping without warning. Gunfire was followed by 2 flashbang grenades. The Supreme Court of North Carolina last month labeled flashbangs a weapon of mass death and destruction, and the 2019 Federal Court Appeals Court decision noted that flashbangs are 4 times louder than 12-gauge shotgun blasts, with powerful enough concussive effects to break windows and put holes in walls. Okay, criminal defense lawyer Clay Conrad observed in 2010, flashbangs are just an assault. These things are designated to blind and deafen. You're intentionally injuring people. And when gunfire and bombs ring out at 4:30 in the morning, it's not surprising that someone gets killed in the commotion. Montgomery County Police have offered no explanation for the timing of the raid. Instead, they issued a press release late on the day of the killing and announced a police-involved shooting, a weasel phrase preferred by police departments and much of the media nowadays. So, I was going to say, how accurate is it? Absolutely. And it says here, after Lemp, who was a software developer, was wounded, police handcuffed the surviving family members and his girlfriend while conducting an exhaustive search of the house. Lemp was pronounced dead at the scene. On Friday evening, the police department posted photos of 5 firearms, none of which are apparently illegal in themselves. Oh my goodness. They seized during the raid, but omitted including a photo of Lemp bullet-ridden corpse. Good grief. You know what I'm saying? Can we spell treason? Can we see the word tyranny? Absolutely. I do see they're having war on the Commonwealth with these practices, according to this article. But this could simply mean he stood up after the shooting or took a step towards the window from where the shots were entering. Police department has not asserted that Lemp had a firearm or any other dangerous device when he was slain. It is a version of the events that Sanders offers unfair to the police. SWAT team members were reportedly wearing body cams. The ACLU of Maryland is demanding that the police must be transparent and release all body camera footage on the raid of Lemp's home. The county government refused to answer questions or to disclose. Body cam footage is doing nothing to help his credibility. Why has Lemp targeted? Lawyer Sandler said that the search warrant referred to Lemp as a prohibited person, meaning that he was prohibited from owning firearms. That could mean simply that he had a permit to use medical marijuana. A violation would apply to tens of thousands of Maryland gun owners who use marijuana despite federal law prohibiting gun ownership combined with pot smoking. Well, I have to disagree with that because Article 45 of Maryland's Declaration of Rights supersedes all these gun laws. Okay? So that's not more than penile microphone rhetoric. And as I proceed here, a check from Montgomery Court Records, edit note, apparently unable to save specific page with record, revealed the one offense for Lemp for a speeding ticket last year. Court records state that Lemp was only 5'8", 145 pounds, but he was towering enough to terrify a SWAT team into opening fire without warning. Lemp was apparently a member of some online pro-gun groups and had allegedly expressed interest in joining a militia, which is in the Declaration of Rights of the Commonwealth of Maryland. Folks, you can look this up. It's self-explanatory. I think it's maybe Article 32. I don't know on top of my head, so look it up yourselves. You trust me, you'll find it. His Instagram page shows 2 photos of the motto "Sic Semper Tyrannis." The Virginia always thus always the tyrants. State motto, including 1 photo showing firearms held high. Checking his Facebook page on Friday morning, I was surprised that he and I had 7 mutual friends, including a savvy libertarian lawyer lady from California. Did Lemp's political beliefs or association have any role on his fatal targeting by Montgomery County Police? I'd like to know what the sheriff had to say about it. If they do have a sheriff, you got to call that SOB out. All right? Maryland has a long history of deadly SWAT raids that killed innocent people or dogs. Lots of dogs. After Maryland police wrongfully raided a mayor's house and killed his canine in 2008, the legislature required police to report every SWAT raid. Between 2010 and 2014, police in Maryland conducted over 8,000 SWAT raids. You know, have you ever been to Maryland? It's not a real huge commonwealth or state. Good grief. Killing 9 people and injuring almost 100, as well as killing 14 animals. Those grim statistics helped spur the Maryland legislature to end SWAT record keeping. Montgomery County Police have refused to disclose the name of the police officer or officers who killed Lemp. The Maryland police are protected by the so-called Law Enforcement Officers' Bill of Rights that prohibits questioning a police officer for 10 days after any incident which he's due to use deadly force. Hey, hell, I think we should do it for the people of Maryland itself. Do that. Do that more than 10 days. Make it 20 days. See how the police will have a oh, you can't do that. All right, I'll just continue on. A 2019 George Washington Law Review nationwide survey revealed that 98% of police chiefs believe that delaying interrogation of police after shooting can impede investigations about police unions. Clout prevail on this issue. One police chief commented that showing evidence in advance allows police to tailor their lives to fit the evidence, while another police chief observed that the process simply gives police suspects time to fabricate a better lie. Another barrier against finding the truth is about the Potomac SWAT raid is at Maryland. Hold on. Maryland. Whew, sorry about that. Potomac SWAT raid is that Maryland treats police falsifying evidence as equivalent of jaywalking. A Baltimore police officer was found guilty in 2018 on fabricated evidence in a case in which his body camera footage showed him placing drugs in a vacant lot and then acting as if he had just discovered them. A man who was arrested for those drugs was locked up for 6 months before the charges were dropped and was released. The policeman kept his job because, as the Baltimore Sun explained, under Maryland law, officers are only removed automatically if convicted of a felon. Fabricating evidence and misconduct in officers are both misdemeanors. So if we fabricate evidence or misconduct, okay, we get the felony, right? If you're a resident of Maryland, can we say bias, discrimination, tyranny? Damn right. An ACLU lawyer groused that he can't imagine a more screw-up, idiotic way to try to manage a police department or any other public office. They continue to employ a cop convicted for fabricating evidence. When Duncan Lemp corrects that the Constitution is dead, one answer will be found in whether Montgomery County Police face any consequence for his death. Unfortunately, the legal playing field in Maryland is profoundly titled in favor of official killers. Something to always examine, folks. This is why the people, even there, have the Declaration of Rights. It needs to be fully implemented, and any of these laws they believe contradicts your Declaration of Rights in Maryland is void. You wipe your rear end with it and you send it back to your government scumbags, bobbleheads, or your servants. Sometimes I get a little bit annoyed. Okay? And don't get me wrong. Even some police officers too, they get the short end of the stick as well. But that's why I always judge by actions. Question things. Police are governmental delegates. Shouldn't get any super treatment as well. I know a lot of them protect to serve the public to the best of their ability, but they are not obligated to protect an individual under the Sovereign Immunity Tort Liability Acts. Maryland has it as well. All you gotta do is look it up, folks. So, hope justice will be served for Mr. Lemp and his heirs and anyone else that are victims of tyranny. We all got to counter it, folks. That's why technology is on our favors. All you got to do is implement it more. They say they can't do it. You just don't have to say a word. Keep recording. Action conquers fear. All right, well, last but not least, this one here. Came from the Mises Institute, Mises.org, the Wire, and this is by Tyler Curtis. Came out today. Bernie's socialism versus Trump's socialism. So I think all those Trump worshippers are going to have a cow. But who the hell cares, right? As it reads here, is re-electing Donald Trump the only way to stem the tide of socialism in America? With self-described Democratic Socialist Bernie Sanders is still considered a strong contender for the Democratic nomination. Many on the right, including the president himself, argue that only by voting for Trump can socialism be abated. America will never be a socialist country, Trump confidently declared in his most recent State of the Union address. And it reads here, fighting socialism. The problem is that the United States is, in some respects, already a socialist country. At least we define socialism broadly enough to encompass a federal welfare programs. Though the president may lambast progressive policy proposals as intolerable socialist impositions, in reality, these programs are mere expensive policies that have existed for a long time. Bernie Sanders' assertion that public universities ought to be tuition free, for instance, is hardly a radical departure from traditional government education policy. Indeed, local and state governments already provide free education for students from kindergarten through high school, and have done so well over a century. For its part, the U.S. Department of Education spends about $41 billion on elementary and secondary schooling. Almost $30 billion are awarded to college students in the form of Pell Grants, while other students receive federally subsidized loans. The most glaring example of an expansion of an already existent socialist policy is Medicare for All. The plan is clearly not novel. After all, the program it seeks to expand is right there in the name. President Trump may not want to extend Medicare coverage to every citizen, but he has shown no interest in rolling it back. In fact, the president's 2021 budget proposes to increase Medicare spending every year for the next decade, nearly doubling its expenditures by 2030. So much for fighting against socialism. Interesting. Ain't that interesting, right? Okay, Trump's flirtation with socialism. To be fair, Trump's budget proposal does contain certain reforms to Medicaid and other entitlement programs. These reforms would lower federal expenditures relative to current budget projections, but would nonetheless increase spending on those programs overall. Despite a few small cuts, the federal government under Trump's 2021 budget would continue to run a deficit, albeit a shrinking one through 2030. Considering that President has been incredibly harsh in his anti-socialist rhetoric, his plans to downsize the federal government appear weak. Indeed, aside from some modest deregulation, Trump has tended to increase power and scope of government, while the President did implement somewhat substantial corporate tax cuts and personal income tax cuts. He then turned right around and raised taxes, imposing billions of dollars in tariffs on Chinese imports. The trade war, now in its third consecutive year, has cost individual American consumers thousands. After the Chinese began imposing their own tariffs in retaliation, American farmers found it increasingly difficult to export their products. So, the president simply bailed them out without congressional authorization, and perhaps even without the legal authority to do so. The Trump administration doled out $28 billion of taxpayer money to farmers and is now promising to send more. In a classic socialist fashion, the bailouts appear to be going to a very small set of farmers. According to the NPR analysis, 100,000 individuals collected just over 70% of the money. Old giddy farmer interviewed by NPR to the bailouts as Trump money, a term reminiscent of the now infamous Obama money woman. Unsurprisingly, many of these farmers were widely overpaid compared to the actual harm they suffered due to the president's trade policy. Ain't that nice? Yeah, so, more things change and more stays the same. And as it reads here, the tales of two socialisms. For all of his anti-socialist bluster, Trump has hardly been a friend to the free market. On the contrary, the president has pursued an agenda of an economic nationalism, recycling old mercantilist policies intended to protect American industry from insidious foreign competition, even going so far as to explicitly order American companies not to do business with Chinese. But rather than fight back against Trump's socialist tendencies, his administration has emboldened nascent nationalists within the conservative movement, and has even encouraged former friends of the free market to embrace government interventions. Once national defender of liberty, Senator Marco Glamboy Rubio, I call him that, Glamboy Rubio, for example, is now firmly in the economic nationalist camp, arguing that the government needs to subsidize special companies and engage in massive health transfers in order to further the common good. Oh, how pretty is that? Hopefully he had his mirror when he was speaking on that matter. Other Republican legislators, such as freshman Senator Josh Hawley, have pushed for more government regulations on social media. Oh, thank you very much. And just recently, the president's Attorney General Bill Barr suggested that the federal government purchase major American tech companies, essentially turning them into state-run enterprises. Point of fact, Trump has succeeded in shifting the overtone window in Republican politics towards socialism, not away from it. The choice facing voters in 2020, therefore, is not between capitalism and socialism, but merely two different kinds of socialism. Oh, yeah, I know that, my friend. So that's why you don't fall for the hype. Okay, my friends? All you gotta do is start looking, examining, observing these bills. You'd be surprised. I was actually petitioned no on Bill Barr being Attorney General because he has that pro-big government mindset. Remember Ruby Ridge? Praise the ATF. They did a job well done. Something to think about, right? It's like Huey and Dewey. Feel the hype? Feel the hype? We hate freedom, but we want free crap. And trust me, the orange man himself. This is why, friends, I don't go criticize presidents or anything like that, politicians, just for kicks. I do it on principle, based on their actions. When you judge them by their actions only, you'd be better off than using pure hatred towards one person. But this here, don't get caught in the con game. Your cult of personality is a deception, regardless of paradigm. That's how I look at it. In concluding Trump and Sanders' views on what they're doing. It's totally unconstitutional, period. Adam Smith. If you don't know about capitalism, read the book on Adam Smith. He's pretty damn self-explanatory. And that is it. I thank everyone for listening. Plus, feel free to download and share to social media networks. If you have any questions, comments, or sense on this issue you want to check out, whatever you do, please send your correspondence with decorum. In addition, I will leave all my footnotes on my Spreaker page. Once again, thank you for your time, but always remember that demoniac resistance is healthy for the soul and can liberate humanity. Until next time, take care of yourselves, keep on spreading the love, and may your guardian spirits be with you.